Welcome to Horror Happens on the Air, here on Jefferson Highlights. It is so good to be here for this first episode with you folks out there. I am JK, here outside of the bunker. You can normally hear the Horror Happens radio show on Homegrown Radio, Tuesdays, 4 p.m. East Coast time. But I've gotten out of the bunker, and I've got a great show for you. This show is going to be killer because of the fact that we have, on Saturday, November 8th, the up-and-coming Horror Happens film showcase. That showcase is going to be right here at Camp Jefferson, in the theater. Just literally, if you folks could see it, right outside this wall. And this place is amazing. So before we jump into the Horror Happens film showcase, let me thank everyone out there for tuning in this week, as we'll be here monthly. Well, I guess you could say live for the broadcast. I want to thank Art Bonito before anything else, because Art, not only is he a tremendous man, but he's a fan of this project. On the show this week, we've got great guests for you. From New York City, we have Mass Grave Pictures, Lindsay Serrano, Manny Serrano, the two of the three minds that brought the opening feature for the Horror Happens film showcase, Blood Slaughter Massacre. Blood Slaughter Massacre will be a part of the great programming on Saturday, November 8th, which will run 1:30 to 11 p.m. It will also include Jack Thomas Smith's Infliction, a great found footage dark thriller, as well as the legendary cult film in black and white, the only way to see it, 1968's Night of the Living Dead. George A. Romero, Russ Steiger, I believe I'm saying that correct, and John Russo. John Russo also will be a part of the Horror Happens film showcase coming up on Saturday, November 8th, as he will be doing a special Q&A in between broadcasts. I should say broadcasts, I'm so used to the radio, in between showings and screenings as part of the film showcase. And that's going to be at 9:30 p.m. Enough with the semantics. Let's get to the show here. This show here, Horror Happens, part of the Jefferson Highlights, every month is going to showcase independent film and independent horror film for you, the fans out there. What we aim to do is to go ahead and bring you an experience every month that you're going to enjoy. A lot of horror is kind of pigeonholed, and it's pigeonholed for a variety of different reasons. Everyone has different reasons with it also. But on this program, Horror Happens, we want to bring out the intelligence. We want to bring out the smart content. The reasons why the filmmakers bring these projects to light, whether it's independent, whether it's TV, whether it's major market, whether it's social media, heck. We want to be able to bring it to you, the fans, and to enjoy what we have. You talk about independent films and the Horror Happens film showcase. Let's jump back to that just for 1 second, because as part of it, we're going to have the very tremendous Blood Slaughter Massacre that our guests coming up shortly, Manny Serrano and Lindsay Serrano from Mass Grave Pictures, brought to light not too long ago. And we'll get into more of the dates and times and everything coming up. That'll be the first film as part of the Horror Happens film showcase. As well as Jack Thomas Smith's Infliction. You gotta love that. Two great cases, two great cover arts that bring you back to a time in your life where horror was absolutely key, and the covers sold the movies before anything else. Besides Blood Slaughter Massacre, Infliction, we also are going to have, and we just talked about it earlier, the legendary Night of the Living Dead. This one here, this is an old one. Actually, this is a 90s re-release, but the film is timeless. And not only is it for the time it came out, the late 60s, 1968, but also a revolutionary film because it really established not only the genre of zombies and infection, but really established independent film. Going into the Pittsburgh area, being able to craft this film, the locals helping out, props, resources, everything else. It's absolutely incredible. Besides the Horror Happens Film Showcase, the Horror Happens radio show, which is heard on Homegrown Radio, is another bastion of live and uncensored conversation. Conversation you're going to hear monthly on Horror Happens right here on Jefferson Highlights, but also the fact that on Homegrown Radio, you get to hear filmmakers from around the world. The website is hgrnj.org, and it streams through every computer around the world for 5 hours every Tuesday. It features news, links, it features content, and it features you, the fan, for the smart fan that you are. This is absolutely great. I love this. I love this, and I love the fact that you folks out there are a part of this. Horror itself, for me, started back many years ago. And it's funny, we talk about Night of the Living Dead. I actually got for all those who remember, the VHS tape here. I started off at age 8, 9, being a fan of horror. I started off with Night of the Living Dead and a variety of other films growing up in the 80s slasher era. A lot of great independent horror came from that. And it's true that there are fans and there are professionals that are absolutely obsessed with it. And we love that because there's that passion. But for me, it took a while to harness that and to really feel that horror was going to be something I wanted to go into. And I absolutely love it. And that's going to show to you, the fans out there, as you watch on Horror Happens on Jefferson Highlights. Things like this, films like this, and the Horror Happens Film Showcase, the Horror Happens radio show, are going to be brought to you and are going to show you a different side of horror. In just mere moments, we're going to have on Lindsay Serrano and Manny Serrano of Mass Grave Pictures, the creators of Blood Slaughter Massacre. And we'll be right back here on Horror Happens. We're so thankful you're here, and I am JK, your host, and we'll be back in a few minutes. We're back here on Horror Happens. We're live Jefferson Highlights. Thank you for being a part of it. Again, we're talking a lot about the up-and-coming Horror Happens Film Showcase, Saturday, November 8th. It's going to run 1:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. To get your tickets, go to inflictiontapes.com. You can also find us on Twitter at HorrorHappensFF. And it's going to feature tremendous independent films like Jack Thomas Smith's Infliction, as well as Night of the Living Dead. And we're going to have a special Q&A live on the premises with John Russo, one of the writers, directors, filmmakers of the past 4 decades, but mostly the mind behind Night of the Living Dead, as well as our next guests and the film by Mass Grave Pictures, Blood Slaughter Massacre, which will open the Horror Happens Film Showcase. We have Lindsay Serrano, we have Manny Serrano, Mass Grave Picks, taking the time to come out from New York City today Guys, how you doing, guys and girls?
Great. I can't believe this camp. It's absolutely amazing.
Isn't it wonderful? Camp Jefferson, when we first got here, it was just incredible with the amphitheater, with the theater where the Horror Happens Film Showcase is going to be, the grounds. Art Bonito, who does a tremendous job putting this together.
Oh, yeah.
So it's wonderful to have you guys and girls here. Blood Slaughter Massacre is coming to Camp Jefferson Saturday, November 8th. We have, if we can get a shot of the Ripper here, look at this guy. He's so cute, you know. And we see the poster behind us. This is the mask of the sinister figure in Blood Slaughter Massacre. Ladies first.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Lindsay Serrano, how does it feel to be a part of the Horror Happens Film Showcase and to be able to show Blood Slaughter Massacre in front of dedicated fans of film, not necessarily horror fans, but just fans of independent film, the spirit of it? How does it feel?
It feels great. I mean, to have a venue that really just opens your doors and opens its arms to you, it's great. It's what the independent filmmaker needs, wants, desires.
Absolutely.
You know, we love to screen it with people. We love to hear their reactions. How else do you become a better filmmaker than to hear it from the people and
So
spend
true.
time with the people? And I mean, just being able to hear people's reactions is you can gauge how successful you were or how you weren't.
I like that, how you put gauge the success of it. And, you know, we've seen now with the Horror Happens Film Festival and showcases that the people that come out to it, you know, you gauge it from their, not only the reaction, but the way the event is run. And to have a film like Blood Slaughter Massacre to start off it with Infliction, with Night of the Living Dead, is just tremendous. Manny, you know, you are the director behind it. You're one of the head honchos of Masquerade Pictures. You have the beautiful Lindsay with the effects producing. You're one of the directors. Talk a little bit about being part of this film showcase with Blood Slaughter.
It's wonderful. It's like she said. It's great to have. It's great to be able to do shows of this size. That's. It's not too big. It's not too small. You know, it's very intimate setting for the film, and having that type of setting, like exactly as she just said, you can gauge people's reaction on a more personal basis, rather than while of course you love to screen in front of a thousand person audience. That's
wishful thinking.
That's always wonderful to do. To do it on a more personal, small scale level, you definitely get people's reactions more personally. I don't know how else to explain that. It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling to sit in a theater of 20 people or 1,000.
Exactly.
And watch them just.
I love that passion. I love that from you guys.
I mean, I think that's why you make movies. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, you know, when you're an independent, the independent spirit really is, we make things that we love. We make movies that we want to see.
Yeah.
And we want to see what other people want to see them. You know, I think these Hollywood directors, they lose so much of that relationship with their audience. They can't relate to the audiences as well because they're not actually with their audience.
Yeah.
For something like this, you know, it's very intimate. You can really gauge people on such a different level. And you know, even the fact that they're not horror fans or they're not this type of horror fan, it's really great just to hear people's perspective on that. Because as an artist, you're really reacting to the world around you. And if you open that world up more, you're going to get better art.
Yeah. Or faces where you're going to see a wide range of people, everything from to those kind of things, and you're really gonna see the reaction. And I think Blood Slaughter Massacre complements Infliction and complements Night of the Living Dead because you have three different distinctive genre films.
Yeah.
I say a throwback. You've corrected me before. It's a film that is a 1980s slasher crime drama. You have Infliction, which is more of a found footage dark drama, and then you have Night of the Living Dead, which is a cult classic and something at the time not unlike what you guys are doing with it, where George A. Romero and cast and crew went out there just to make a film, and they took whatever resources they had near Pittsburgh to do it. Yeah. And that's one of the wonderful things about it. The idea of the Ripper, who looks so charming here. He's, it's a strong silent type. We thought this was Louis Cortez showing up today. We miss you, Louis. Going back to you, Lindsay, you look at the work that Massgraves has done now. Blood Slaughter, though, was a work in progress. A lot of trailers. from your perspective, working behind the camera, getting a lot of the effects done, a lot of the makeup done, very well, if I may add.
Thank you.
Talk a little bit about the journey that it took to get to Bloodsport Massacre, and the release is next year, which is absolutely insane.
Yes, we'll be in stores early next year, early 2015.
That's insane. Congratulations.
Thank you. No, I think with Blood Slaughter, it really was. It's like a baby, almost like a kid. When we started making the trailers, it was, we had our friends, and it was very casual. The effects were a lot of just blood kind of thrown on somebody. And then when it came to making the actual feature, we kept in our minds that we wanted to make this movie, like you said, like it was 1984. Yeah. So when it came to the effects, we had to use materials that were available in 1984. So
nice. Nice.
Yeah, so everything out there is it's latex, it's paper towels, it's toilet paper, and whatever little things, little tricks and tips that they did back then. And that really was the missing piece. Yeah. I think when it came to effects, it was getting the idea of, this is a 1980s slasher, we have to make it as if it was 1980s. And you had to bring that modern element to it as well, because people are used to seeing a certain amount of blood, a certain quality of blood, and it was a delicate dance to find that. It took the trailers to really get me to that point. Well, and by the time we had once we had the feature done, we had the blood pumps, we had a lot more sophisticated equipment.
And that's one thing for you, the fans out there. I think you have to understand something. This independent horror films, we recommend 18 and over. And we do that because there is some mature subjects within it, but it's a throwback to the Friday the 13th. It's a throwback to the Halloween. It's a throwback to that kind of cinema which families have been raised on. You look at the way that even from my personal experiences, working in the Blockbuster videos, the VHS stores, all the way to now, you see that love of it, and that's something that trumps the aspect of content and the maybe preconceived notions that come along with it. Manny, you look at with Blood Slaughter Massacre now being authentic and trailing off what Lindsay had said, that authenticity of it, as well as the mindset of creating that kind of environment with the Ripper, with all these great characters, is your perspective any different from Lynn's in that origins that brought you to Blood Slaughter Massacre?
No, not really, not too different. A big thing of the 80s films is the charm that they had. Yeah. You always talk about the charm, sometimes they have a little cheesy nature to them. There's the low budget. Well, they didn't have the best actors. They didn't have the best this. They didn't have the best that. Because these movies were done on budgets back then. Yeah. Even the movies like Halloween and Friday the 13th, even though you look at it, it's okay, well, it cost them $500,000. Yeah, okay, and they ended up spending $300,000 of that on film processing, which would leave them this much of this budget and only have this much to actually make the film.
Hold on a sec, you mean it wasn't all digital? No. I'm sorry, it was all digital,
So for the actual production of the film, it was a lot lower than what they were given. They didn't have as much, and when you look at it in that perspective, you say, well, based on what they had, they made an amazing film. They couldn't do this and they couldn't do that. I said, well, we're kind of doing the same thing without having to pay for film, because it's the digital age. So
exactly.
So without having to pay for film, we're pretty much working on a very similar budget to what they're doing. So he said, well, let's not worry about making a Hollywood film. Let's worry about making the best film that we can make for what we have, which is exactly what they did back then. So the whole feeling of the movie was to be like the movie came out in the 80s. You see, as you said, you see a lot of throwback films to, the 80s. Big hair, crazy T-shirts, weird.
I don't know anything about big hair. Just saying.
A lot of the stereotypical '80s jokes that they put into it. And I said I didn't want to make a joke out of the '80s. I wanted the movie to take place in the '80s.
You wanted to pay respect.
Yeah, I wanted it to be as though if this movie came out in 1984, it would have been up there with the Michael Myers and the Jason and the Freddys
I love
and
that.
everything. Not just a tribute to them. The Ripper would be a character who would stand alongside them.
I have a question, actually. You talk about being alongside them. William Shatner is synonymous for being behind the Michael Myers mask. Leonard Nimoy? Where did all kidding aside, where did the aspect of the Ripper mask come from? Because that's such a symbol within the film when you see it, and also the score that goes along with it. You know, there are two motivating factors that really get you entranced in Blood Slaughter Massacre.
Well, the mask itself was something that we found at a thrift store.
Perfect.
It was
I love
found
that.
art.
Love that.
Yeah, it was just something we got. I think we bought it for like $2 in a store that was closing down, and
And
we
then,
searched everywhere trying to find the
Yeah.
the creators of the mask, and we went through multiple different collectors and other effects artists that we know, and nobody had ever seen it before. So when you run into that, okay, there's possibly a copyright issue then.
Yeah.
So we went to Mike Scardillo
of Scars Effects.
in Scars Effects, and we had him make an original mold, changing quite a bit of it.
Yeah.
Of the mask, so that we had an original piece based on it. The makeup was all of ours. The
clown makeup.
the color on the
Yeah, the
eyes
way
and the
it is
lips
with
and
that.
everything. Yeah, that's all our part of the design. The horns are bigger than they were before, the ears and everything, and
On the mask?
Yeah.
on the mask.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Let me get in focus.
Look at this mask. You gotta be and this is what's great about TV like this. You gotta love the aspect of the detail that's shown in it. I feel like I'm on QVC right now. The mask, you know, but it's also, and this is something for you, the fans out there. You look at the way the mask is. One of the iconic things about the 80s slasher, whether it's the hockey mask, whether it's William Shatner's face, whether it's the Ripper mask, is the detail for it, the detail to make it look like it's been through that situation.
Yeah.
It's not fine, it's not new looking, it's not like you see in the digital age with stuff like that. It fits.
This is
and
actually-
that's unbelievable.
This is actually
actually-
the aged mask.
there's two of them.
We had 3 masks made for Blood Slaughter Massacre. Mike Scardilla made us 3 of them. One of them was the brand new one that you see in the beginning of the movie. It's a fresh costume mask in the 70s. Nice, clean, white,
clown
closer to
white.
white.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
And
a clown white skin tone.
yeah. This one we actually aged down. We used different techniques, different paint jobs. We layered different colors of
Yeah.
brown to age it.
Yeah.
And the makeup we actually changed as well.
That's incredible.
We added different browns and different darker colors and lighter.
Yeah.
We lightened these on the eyebrows because it'd be so worn because it's so visible and
Yeah.
could easily get rubbed.
We wanted to give it that realistic aspect.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the movie starts in the 70s, and we open up with a main party massacre there, and then it skips forward 10 years later. So what would the mask look like after 10 years of aging and this guy possibly wearing it?
That's and you will see that in Blood Slaughter
Yeah.
Massacre, and it's going to be one of the films as part of the Horror Happens Film Showcase, which is going to be coming up Saturday, November 8th. It's kind of mind-boggling that we see this coming out now with Blood Slaughter Massacre, with Infliction, with Night of the Living Dead, and special guest John Russo, plus Manny Serrano, Lindsay Serrano, who I'd like to thank you for being a part of Horror Happens today, for taking the time to come
Thank you
out.
for having
Thanks.
us.
As well as Jack Thomas
Wonderful.
Smith, will all be part of the filmmaking Q&As after each film. You can go ahead and get tickets at inflictiontapes.com and go on Twitter at HorrorHappensFF. Before we head off, I want to thank you both again for coming up here today. And we look forward
you.
to
Thank
seeing
you.
you Saturday, November 8th.
Yes, we'll be there.
Also, check out massgravepictures.com, the website for it, Facebook and Twitter, as well as check out the Horror Happens radio show, weekly homegrown radio, Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Go to horrorhappens6.wix.com/HHRS to hear all the content and check out the schedule. And tune in next month for The Horror Happens here on Jefferson Highlights. And a big thank you, before I forget, to Diabolique Magazine. Big thank you to them for being a sponsor of the Horror Happens Film Showcase as well as the Horror Happens radio show. From Jefferson Highlights, the Horror Happens here, live. Pleasant nightmares, and listen live if you dare. Thank you for tuning in.
We have to go up there.
I can't do that.
We talked about this for years.
No, you talked about this for years.
What's with the cameras?
We're shooting a documentary.
Are you gonna be showing good people or bad?
Is there a difference?
What are you doing? You know why we're taping this. It doesn't make any sense.
But it does. This means something to us.
John, what's on these tapes?
Yeah, John. What's on the tapes?
Oh my god! Oh my god! Somebody killed my dad! 911, what's your emergency?
Hey, I need you guys to get out here. I need the police out here right now.
What's going on, sir?
My neighbors have been murdered.
What's the
911.